You guys have been doing this for a very long time. What are, and I'm sure you've made some of these mistakes, what are some of the most common and biggest mistakes that you see people make when buying property, whether that's owner-occupier or investor, it doesn't matter, just going through the process of buying a property? What are the biggest mistakes that you see?
Look, I think the first one as a general statement is people just don't get the help that they need. And you don't, it might sound like a cliche, but you don't know what you don't know. And it's the unknown unknowns where with everything in life, where we're all exposed. So, we see inexperienced buyers making, all sorts of mistakes in life. There's in purchasing, mistakes in asset selection, mistakes in assessing a property, contract errors. There's a whole raft of them. So I think the most important thing to avoid that is just to make sure that you're getting the right professional help that is actually going to stop you from making those mistakes. Professional advice really pays for itself. If you're about to go out and spend $1 million, doesn't it make sense to spend an extra $15,000 or $20,000 to make sure that you're actually absolutely optimizing that $1 million that you're about to spend? So, really getting the right professional advice in anything, but certainly when purchasing a piece of real estate, it's gonna pay off in a big way.
Well, one of the things I find when speaking with clients and hearing some not so great stories is that people don't understand the true cost of holding property. They go to a mortgage broker. The mortgage broker says the repayments are going to be, X dollars a month, but they don't know how much it's going to cost for rates and water and strata and maintenance,
insurance,
and
everything,
all those things, and all those things can add up. Especially if you have to spend, $10,000 on some sort of repair on your property or whatever it might be. So you have to make sure you know your numbers when buying property. You need to know how much it's going to cost. What are your out-of-pocket holding costs pre and post-tax? And if you know that, well then, okay, I can successfully purchase this property. But that's one of the biggest mistakes I see.
One of the biggest mistakes I see is people who, because the majority of people buy property with somebody, like with a partner, spouse, something like that. And one of the biggest mistakes I see is that they're not on the same page as in what they want. And they're not realistic. Realism is one of the biggest issues I see because people are, they come off and they're looking for this unicorn of a property. And you get clients a lot that they've spent months on realestate.com, the app, and they think it's research. It's not research, it's searching. And like we've said many times, the photos, the videos, all the stuff that you see, it's not real, right? Like it's all different. You see these sunsets from Tuscany and in Quakers Hill and stuff, and none of it makes sense, right? And so I feel like a lot of people, the biggest mistake that they make is that they're chasing something that's unobtainable. And unfortunately, by the time they sober up and realize they were chasing this dragon, this unicorn, the market's moved and they get to this very awkward position where the properties that they rejected originally, they can't even afford them now.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, you'll never find a property that's 100% right.
No.
80%?
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people are just unwilling to compromise.
Yep.
Yeah, look, we tell our clients that I think, if it's 80% right, it's right. Because, you might go out and if you don't buy that property, you might go out and find another property that is better in a particular area that 80% one that you rejected wasn't. But chances are that it's going to have other things where it was inferior to that 80% property. So, if it's 80% right, it's right. And, time is money in property and you're just better off going ahead and purchasing that property.
And a lot of people are just kind of watching it go by, aren't they?
Well, I think, the whole time is money element is so important. I think that one of the biggest mistakes people make is procrastination. And it's a whole, it's we've talked about this before. It's life getting in the way. but it's also not having professional buying help that can actually go out and get the job done for you, and a masters of execution at it, a professionals at it, do it every day of the week, rather than you trying to take that on yourself.
I heard you put it really well once when you were talking about being a spectator. You did a presentation once. What did you say?
So look, I remember, I was at the Australian Open, back in the early 90s, and I was looking around, and it just suddenly occurred to me that, broadly speaking, you can really divide life up into players and spectators. And if you look at, if you're looking at the tennis, pretend that you're watching the tennis right now, who is really moving forward with their lives, fighting to achieve their goals. Well, it's the players. It's the two people on the court. And what's everyone else doing? They're just spectators. They might be having a nice time, but they're really not moving their goals substantively forward in those moments. And I think that's a great metaphor for buying property and for life in general. That you've got to be a player. Don't sit on the sidelines and see those news articles every few months about how much property prices are going up. Make sure that you're actually a player, that you're engaged, and because in the end, who are all the rewards going to? They're not going to the spectators, they're going to the players. So make sure that you're a player, that you participate in the players' rewards, and that you're not just sitting there as an armchair spectator.